Hi everyone, I'm Shine.
And I'm Marga.
And today we're talking about something that every business deals with, but honestly, not a lot of people really sit down and talk about properly.
Yeah, it's one of those things that's always been there, but kind of ignored.
Time tracking.
Exactly.
Let's start with something simple. When you hear time tracking, what do you actually picture?
First thing, Bundy clocks.
Oh, same. That old machine where you punch a card and hope it stamps correctly.
Yeah, or those spreadsheets. Like at the end of the day, someone just fills in their hours from memory.
And you're just hoping it's accurate.
Or even messages like, hey, I started at 9, I think, but I'm not sure.
And the thing is, a lot of small businesses are still doing exactly that.
Yeah, because at the beginning, it works. Small team, everyone talks directly. You kind of trust the process.
But once your team grows, even just a little,
That's when things start to fall apart.
missing hours, people forgetting to log time,
Schedules that aren't clear.
and payroll that suddenly doesn't match what actually happened.
So now, instead of you tracking time, you're fixing your time.
And that takes way more effort. And that's exactly why time tracking tools have become so important, especially for small businesses.
Because small businesses don't operate like big corporations.
People wear multiple hats. Schedules are flexible and things change quickly.
So you need a system that can actually adapt to all of that.
And today, we're going through some of the most used time tracking tools in 2026, but not just listing features. We're not just doing that. We're talking about how they actually help in real everyday situations. And let's start with Fair Clock.
Okay, what stood out to me about Fair Clock is how much more structured it feels compared to the others.
Yes, it's not just about clocking in and out. You can actually set shifts, breaks, and schedules on how your business runs.
And that's important. If your team doesn't follow the same routine every day, like if you have rotating shifts or have people working across different roles.
What I found really useful and interesting is the job costing feature.
Same. Like when employees clock in, they select the job that they're working for. So if you're handling multiple clients, projects, or tasks, you can actually see where your time is being spent.
And not just at a high level.
Yeah.
You can break it down further using job phases and cost codes.
Which is really helpful when you're trying to understand your labor costs.
Like, why is one project taking more time than expected?
Exactly. So instead of guessing, you actually have data.
And then there's face recognition with liveness detection. This one is very practical, especially if you've ever dealt with someone clocking in for someone else.
Yeah, body punching sounds itty bitty small, but it adds up.
And affects payroll accuracy.
Yeah, I also like that it gives multiple clock in options like face verification, PIN, NFC, QR code. So it works whether your team is on site or mobile. And you can choose between personal devices or shared kiosks.
Which is useful if you have a mix of office staff and field workers.
Yeah, the mobile app also helps reduce daily friction.
Yes, employees can clock in, switch jobs, submit missed punches, check schedules,
And request time off without needing to tell your manager every time.
and managers can still access raw logs, reports, and even offline tracking. So, even if someone works in a location or area with weak internet, their time is still recorded. So overall, it feels like a system that gives structure without making things complicated.
Yeah, that's true. Now, if Fair Clock is more structured and controlled, this next one is flexible and simple.
Okay, now Marga, let's talk about Clockify.
Okay.
Clockify is very straightforward. It mainly works as a timer. So you start it, assign it to a project or client, and log your hours. For some teams, that setup is already enough.
Especially for freelancers or small teams handling multiple clients, it makes it easy to track billable and non-billable hours. And you see clearly how time is distributed across projects.
It's also very easy to use, so getting started doesn't take much effort.
Agree. Minimal setup, simple interface, and the reporting is pretty clear.
But at the same time, it relies heavily on user discipline.
Exactly. Since it's mostly manual timers, if someone forgets to start or stop it, the data won't be accurate.
Yeah, because there is no built-in way to verify who is actually working. So while it's flexible for project tracking, it's not really designed for strict attendance monitoring.
Right. It works well for simple time tracking, but there are some limitations like limited scheduling, basic break controls, and weaker offline tracking.
And since there's no face verification or automatic checks, it works best for teams that can manage their own time properly.
Yep. Now, if you're looking for more than just time tracking though, this next tool combines multiple functions.
Okay, now let's have Connect Team. Connect Team has a lot of features beyond time tracking, like communication and task management.
Yeah, it's really useful if your team needs constant coordination.
Especially for field teams and service-based businesses.
Yeah, employees can clock in using QR codes, PIN, kiosk, or even selfie verification. And admins can approve timesheets and time off requests directly on mobile.
You know, what's interesting in Connect Team, it also includes messaging and file sharing. So, communication becomes part of the daily workflow.
Which is great. For keeping everyone connected. Strong team coordination and easy communication tools really stand out for Connect Team.
Yeah, I agree. And since it's mobile friendly, it works well for teams that are always on the move.
Plus, the scheduling is flexible enough to handle different shift setups.
But because it offers so many features, it can feel a bit overwhelming at first.
Yeah, especially if you only really need basic time tracking.
There's also a bit of a learning curve, and the interface can feel complex when you're just starting.
And while it does cover a lot, reporting isn't as deep, and time tracking still relies on manual input. So, which is why it may be more than what some small teams actually need.
Okay, so that's Connect Team. Now, let's simplify things again.
Now, Body Punch. Body Punch is very easy to use. It's one of those tools you can set up quickly and start using just immediately.
And the setup is fast, and honestly, that's one of its biggest strengths. Teams can adapt it quickly without much training.
It also offers flexible clock-in options like PIN, QR code, kiosk, and even text-based punching.
So, it works well across different environments like offices, retail, or even small on-site teams.
It includes scheduling and time off management too, plus basic controls like overtime rules, which makes it a practical option if you're looking for something simple and easy to roll out.
But that simplicity also comes with trade-offs.
Yeah, customization is quite limited, so you can't really tailor it deeply to your specific workflow.
And if you're managing teams across different regions, the multi-time zone support can be a challenge.
Yeah. Scheduling is also fairly basic and there's no job tracking, so visibility into tasks is very limited. Plus, reporting stays on the simpler side.
So it's great if you want something you can launch quickly, but as your operations grow, or become more complex, those limitations become more noticeable.
Now, this next one focuses more on visibility.
Okay, now let's talk more about Jibble. Jibble focuses on monitoring work activity. It includes screenshots, activity tracking, and usage monitoring so you can actually see what's happening during work hours.
Yeah, and everything is pulled into one place. Like you can get a centralized view of time, activity, and attendance, which is helpful, especially for remote teams where visibility is important.
Right, so you don't have to constantly check in because the system already gives you that level of insight.
But it still relies heavily on timers.
And since timers can be left running, you get visibility but not always accuracy.
There's also the risk of body punching, since someone can still clock in manually for someone else.
And while the dashboard is comprehensive, navigating reports can feel a bit complex.
Another thing to consider is the free trial. Have you seen it? A lot of the advanced features aren't really accessible there, so you don't really get the full experience unless you upgrade it.
Which can make it harder to properly evaluate how the system will work for your team long term.
Yeah. So overall, it's strong when it comes to activity monitoring, but accuracy, usability, and even evaluation depend a lot on how you use it and which plan you're planning to go for.
And I think we're down on the last one. Finally, something more focused on analysis.
TimeCamp is more focused on understanding productivity. So it tracks activity across your apps and websites automatically. So you can actually see how time is spent, which is helpful if you're trying to improve efficiency, especially for project-based teams that need visibility into tasks and workflows.
It also tracks billable and non-billable hours, which is useful for client work.
And it integrates with tools like Trello and Asana, plus a wide range of other platforms.
Yes, it has over 100
Wow.
native integrations, so it fits well into existing project management setups.
It also supports client billing, expense tracking, and invoicing, which adds more value for teams handling projects end to end. So it's definitely strong when it comes to analysis and project tracking.
But when it comes to setup, some features require installing the desktop app.
Yeah, and if you're only using the browser, the functionality is more limited.
Plus, browser-based tracking still relies on manual timers, which can affect accuracy. So, while it's great for understanding productivity and managing projects, it's less focused on structured attendance tracking and control.
Before we end, quick question.
Okay.
Out of everything we talked about, which one would you actually use?
Honestly,
Yes.
no-brainer.
Same. Go.
If I'm running a small business, I wouldn't want to keep double checking hours
Okay.
or fixing payroll all the time.
Exactly. I'd want something that already gives me accurate records without the extra work. And something that can handle different setups like multiple shifts, jobs, even different locations. So you're not adjusting your process just to fit the tool.
You're using a tool that actually fits how your business runs. So yeah.
Fair luck! It just feels more complete. You're not just tracking time, you're actually managing it.
And you don't have to second guess if the data is accurate.
Yeah, which honestly makes a huge difference day to day.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, it still comes down to what your business needs.
Yes, different teams, different setups. But if you want something structured, reliable, and easy to manage,
It's a pretty clear choice.
I'm Marga.
And I'm Shine.
And we'll see you in the next one.